Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Heater, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. And yes, I know I missed Thursday night football. I am sorry. I was putting in a little extra work for next week with the Thanksgiving slate. Some fun things are in store for you. Tune in. News will come soon. But that is why. However, today we are going to be covering Week 12, the main slate. There's an 11-game slate. I think this is going to be an awesome slate to tackle today. And some other things that you get to benefit from is that I'm giving away my spreadsheet for free this week. Since you missed the Thursday night game, I'm giving it to everybody for free. It's going to be available in the link right in this YouTube description or on Spotify. I'll put it up there too. But yeah, you get it for free this week. Try it out, and you still get the $5 promo code. So instead of having to go to Patreon and buying it for $5, you're going to get it for free, and you're getting a $5 code to get the rest of the season for just $10. And then on Etsy, same thing. I don't have the promotion deal on there, but if you love me, you can pay $15 there and help me out that way. But anyway, we're going to break down this one. Some tweaks that you are going to get that benefit you this week as well is I reworked my algorithm for my top positional values, so they should be even more accurate now. I'm really excited about it. I put a little extra work in this week. Basically, quarterbacks are being filtered by not only the value anymore, but also the fantasy points per dropback. Basically, everything that's highlighted. So the running backs by weighted opportunities, the wide receivers by their targets per game, as well as their value. Same thing with the tight ends, targets per game, and their value. And then defenses are still the same because, that's the last spot we fill anyway. But let's jump right in today. There's 5 top games that we're interested in. The first one being Kansas City versus the Colts. This one is a 50.5 point over-under with a minus 3.5 point line towards KC because they are at home, though I think this is a game where Indy shows whether or not they are able to play with the big boys, and I think I'm backing the Colts on this one. I'm excited for this matchup. I think there's a lot of key players that we'll be able to highlight in this one, but yeah, we'll come back to that. The second one is the Detroit Lions versus the New York the Giants. You got Jameis Winston behind center again, so that's always a fun experience. Could make this game even more interesting. This is the game that I think you're going to want to target the most. It's also 15.5 point over under. The line is minus 10 towards the Lions. I think that tells you what side of this game we want to play. But yes, there are some fun pieces on the Giants side that I think could make everything work for your cash lineups. And then today we have 3 top 50.5 point over-unders. The Patriots versus the Bengals. And are we going to possibly see Joe Burrow? There is that possibility. It's a minus 8.5 points towards the Patriots, but that will obviously change if Joe Burrow is officially active. So another game we're interested in. The next one is the Eagles versus the Cowboys at 47.5 points. And a minus 3 point line towards the Eagles. This one is the one game that I think I'm probably going to be fading out of this top group because Philadelphia is just playing slow, and their defense is very, very good. And even the Cowboys, I know the Cowboys are going to be able to score, but it's going to slow them down. I think this game is going to hit the under. So of these top 5, this is the one I'm least interested in stacking, though there's going to be some key pieces in there that we can go after. And then lastly, the last game we're going to highlight is the Jaguars versus the Cardinals, 47.5 points, another minus 3 line. Jacoby Brissett still under center. He is, spoiler alert, the best cash option for quarterback, and will continue to be. Last week, I'm pretty sure the Millie winner was Jacoby triple stack, and honestly, I see the same formula possibly working this week. So definitely some key things that we're going to be focused on there, but let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in. All right, so now we will break down the top positional values, and I will give you my best plays for cash this week, as well as a couple sprinkled GPP thoughts and tips. But we're going to start with the quarterback position. Like I said earlier, Jacoby Brissett is by far the best option in my opinion based on his cash price, $5,300 salary, and he's been balling out. I know he is a straight pocket passer, but he has been getting it done, and this matchup looks like it's going to be the same kind of situation. Their running game's not great. Most of their actual running backs are injured, so I think it's another Bam Knight, Michael Carter week, but we shall see. The next option would be Drake May. He is the top priced quarterback on the slate, however. So that makes it a little challenging to pay up for him and then get to some other options. However, he is a solid play and definitely someone I'm going to consider in tournament builds. And the next ones, honestly, are more tournament builds as well. Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson. Those are my top four. Some honorable mentions. Daniel Jones would make my lineup if we're talking tournaments. Sam Darnold could be interesting if they just completely blow out the Titans, though I think that game might not ask much for him. So you'd have to assume that it's a build where they throw a couple touchdowns to him and JSN, and then they just kind of steamroll the Titans. So maybe not that one. But Patrick Mahomes or Daniel Jones, I think that's an interesting one with it being the top game of the week. But anyway, I digress. Running backs, if we're moving on to running backs, he's kind of being overlooked. A lot of people are saying Chase Brown is your best option. He's definitely going to be the highest roster percentage. But I think DeAndre Swift is someone that could help you as well. He's only being considered for 14.4% roster percentage at the moment. That's what he's projected as. So he's a little bit of leverage off of Chase Brown. He saves you even more. He saves you another $600. So he's someone I'm considering. I mean, you could play them both for sure if you're doing a 3 running back build, but those are some options. I do think this week with Trey McBride, he's probably going to be locked in cash again, that you might be doing more 2 tight end builds or 3 running back builds. Those are kind of the 2 ways that I'm leaning right now. But the next player, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's almost locked into my lineup. He's the highest projected player on the slate for sure. I do think that obviously Jonathan Taylor has the potential to completely blow up the slate, but he's 10,000 this week. They finally priced him at a place where I'm not just plugging him in. So of all the options, Bijan, he could be a really solid option as well this week at 8,500. But all that to say, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is locked in for me for cash. There are some leverage spots in tournaments to get off of him. But I have those ones locked in. And then my last option here would be Derrick Henry. I didn't mention Emmanuel Wilson just because at the time of this recording, Josh Jacobs is still possibly going to play. However, if he was ruled out, Emmanuel Wilson would automatically pop in there. He'd probably be my 4th option there. Because salary-wise, he saves you a ton. What is he? Yeah, 5,300. So similar price point, even 300 less than DeAndre Swift. So, like I said, I think I'd put him probably in my 4th spot there. And then the other honorable mention would be David Montgomery, but more for tournaments. I think he'd be a fine leverage spot off of Jahmyr Gibbs. Coach Speak says that they're trying to get him more involved, and I kind of believe Dan Campbell. He's a straight shooter, so if he says it, I think it's going to happen. We can see that with Jameson Williams. He wanted him to get involved. He got him involved. So that's a possibility as well. Let's move on to wide receiver. Wide receiver, I think your top option is Amon-Ra. And I am fine with playing both of them in cash, both Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm totally fine with that. If you're uncomfortable with that, then maybe play someone like I would put Amon-Ra as more important than Jahmyr Gibbs this week. Jackson Smith and Jigba is my second option. I don't think I need to tell you why. If you've been watching, unless you've been living under a rock, he has been incredible this year. The next one is Michael Wilson. This would be someone you could pair with Jacoby Brissett. Good salary savings. He did go up in price this week, but not enough to matter. He is now, what are we seeing? He's now 4,800, but he is their top receiver behind Trey McBride, with Marvin Harrison Jr. being ruled out for a second straight game. The next option would be Rashee Rice. This is a must-win game for the Chiefs. Spoiler alert, I don't think they're going to win it. But they're going to play it like to win it, and Rashee Rice had a huge target percentage last week. Their running game is not working, so they're doing the short passing game that we love out of Chiefs Kingdom, and Rashee Rice seems to be the main target. The other one is Travis Kelce. He will not die. He is still very alive and well, and while we thought the cliff was coming, it seems like he is still playing at an extraordinary level. So those are the two people that I'm most interested in out of that Chiefs side. Rashee Rice being here, and then in tight ends we'll talk about Travis Kelce. Spoiler alert, I'll just put him in now. He is my number 2. Behind, also no surprise, Trey McBride. Trey McBird. Oh, I can't spell. There we go. Trey McBride. But back up to wide receiver. The next option would be Wan'Dale Robinson. And then I have a sneaky play of Isaiah Hodgins that we'll talk about later. I guess we'll just talk about it now. He is a top dart throw for me. Isaiah Hodgins, you'd be like, who is that? Well, the Giants are just trotting out whoever they can possibly play at wide receiver, and he is their wide receiver 3. But this last week, when playing with Jameis, and now that we know Jameis is confirmed the starter, he had 21% of their target share and was in the game for 80% of their snaps. So this guy at near base price, he's at 3,300. He is definitely someone that I think can save you some salary and open up spots for some of the top players. So that's someone that I'm interested in. However, Wan'Dale is probably the much safer choice. He is their wide receiver 1 at the moment. And though he was outsnapped and out-targeted by Isaiah Hodgins last week. So for number 6, let's go back to my list here. Jacoby Myers. Same guy, different uniform. So now that he is playing with the Jaguars, right? Is that right? There's been so many players traded, I have to... Yeah, so he's on the Jaguars. He's a nice run-back opportunity versus the Cardinals this week. Definitely with, I believe, Brian Thomas still out, and obviously Travis Hunter out. Next one would be Jameson Williams. I would not play him and Amon-Ra together in cash. However, if you wanted to pivot, if you had higher beliefs in Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams is a fun cash option for you. Definitely tournaments, go wild, do whatever you want. I could see you playing all 3. I just wouldn't put that much volatility into my cash lineup. For 8, Romeo Doubs is another cheap option. Basically, this week you're going to have to build. Probably you're going to get 1 wide receiver stud. Definitely Trey McBride, tight end stud. 1 running back stud. And then the rest is going to have to kind of fill in with some balance or leverage, or balance or savings plays. So that's why I'm offering a lot of these mid-tier wide receivers here. Romeo Doubs, Jacoby Myers, Michael Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson. You're going to probably need at least 2 of those to make this all work. After him, T. Higgins, I think is a great option. With Joe Flacco, he'll be a fine option. With Joe Burrow, he'll be an even better option. And lastly, George Pickens. I put him instead of CD just for salary. Obviously, CD Lamb is a great play as well. You're only going to be able to target so many of these top-end players, and I value these other guys more. On to tight ends to fill out the rest of that. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to wide receiver. I did have one honorable mention. I think Chris Olave is kind of falling through the cracks here. He is someone that sticks out on my chart. He's my third option here. He's only 6,400. I know it's not a game that we're targeting as much. However, he's had a ridiculous target share. It sounds like he's going to be back for this game. So if he's back in, I definitely think he is someone that you could slide into that mid-range as well. He just didn't make my top 10 because we're not sure that he's playing yet. Sorry, back to tight ends. To round out this position, Mark Andrews. And lastly, Hunter Henry. So basically, my thought here is you're going to want Trey McBride in there for sure. I wouldn't fault you in tournaments to get off of Trey McBride. I think I will be fading him a little bit this week just because he is going to be so popular. So in those builds, I'd put Travis Kelce in there. And then if you're doing a 2 tight end build, you could easily put Mark Andrews or Hunter Henry to save some salary in there. But then you're going to have to make some different choices at the running back position. For defenses this week, the obvious choice is the Browns. The Browns this week going up against Geno Smith, who's been throwing interceptions like crazy. This is a great matchup for them. And so that's the top option for value. The next one in my choice would be the Saints because they're going against Kirk Cousins, who just doesn't seem to have it anymore. He was asked, what did he say? He was asked if he was injured. He's like, I'm not telling you until after the season. It was just a very, very weird answer. So you're like, well, if you weren't having something to hide, now we're not so sure. But next options would be just the Ravens. You could flip the build with the Browns, have the Raiders for more tournaments. And then I wouldn't fault you at all if you had this out, the savings and you're able to make it work. You can throw the Seahawks in there. They're going against the Titans. They're going to have a huge game. They could blow up the slate. However, they're 4K. I don't normally like to spend that for defense, but it might be an interesting tournament strategy. On to leverage plays this week. So, I know I told you about Trey McBride. I know I told you about Travis Kelce. But have you heard about this other guy, Brock Bowers? I think in tournaments, it's someone that you could definitely go to as leverage off of those two players who are going to be very popular. Let's look over here. Yeah, Trey McBride's almost 20%. Travis Kelce about 12%. Brock Bowers is technically a little bit more than Travis Kelce, but I think it's going to you're going to see more soon. As the day goes on. The other leverage piece I would say, Aaron Jones. He was amazing last week. He was top considered in cash, but this week he seems to be left for dead. I think he is a very interesting pivot point off of a popular Chase Brown. And then also Emmanuel Wilson in that same game. I think he is a leverage spot. If Emmanuel Wilson is the top running back there, definitely someone you could pivot off of. Go for Aaron Jones in a similar price point. And then my last one here would be Trevion Henderson. He hasn't been mentioned that much this week. He is one of the top games. He's been obviously Ramondre Stevenson might come back this week, and that is why people are hesitant about it. But I think he's shown the team that he has earned that position, and this will probably be the last week you'll be able to play him at a lower roster percentage because of that hesitancy from others. If you just go with your gut and say that he is going to be the same guy this week, even with Ramondre Stevenson back, I think you'll be able to get a lot of leverage on the field. My last two dart plays, I've got Michael Pittman Jr., another person that's kind of fallen through the cracks. I think he is, what is his price point this week? He's at 6K, so another middling roster guy that you could use. I think that is an option. Definitely in tournaments, I'm going to be going to him. And then my last one is Baishal Tutin. Baishal Tutin is only... How do I spell that? Boom. I think I did it. Baishal Tutin is only, 4,600 this week? Where is he? There he is. Yeah, 4,600. So I definitely think he's not going to pop in the simulators or the metrics or anything like that, but he outpaced Travis Etienne last week. If you are assuming that he does the same thing this week, he is another person that you could get a little leverage off of and have some salary savings. So those are my thoughts for the top plays. The last thing I want to do in this video is just build a couple of cash lineups with you. So I think Jacoby Brissett is my locked-in cash. We're going to say Jahmyr Gibbs here. And then you could throw in, I'm going to throw in DeAndre Swift just to be different. See what it does. We're going to throw in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then, let's see, I'm going to throw in Isaiah Hodgins as my salary savings. I'm going to throw in some other pieces just to see if I'm able to get another stud of some sort. So these are kind of the pieces that I know I'll have locked in. Let's try a 3 running back build. Let's do Chase Brown. Oh, so 3,600. Yeah, this is going to be a tight slate. Okay, that makes sense. So then if I go back to my choices for 3,600, who is in that range that we'd be interested in? No one. Cool. All right, so we got to get off of somebody here. I'm thinking... Okay, so we can save a little bit if I do it that way. Cool. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to go down to... Instead of Chase Brown, we're going to go Hunter Henry. Do the 2 tight end build. That gives us 5,900. Now we're talking. Now we can get into the wide receivers here. And at 5,900, you could almost fit in Michael Pittman. Ooh. Yeah, so we're going to have to figure it out. It's going to be interesting this week. Oh, Michael Wilson? Yeah, maybe I'll throw in Michael Wilson and see what else that gives me. This is the very first time I'm building, so I'm figuring this out with you. Michael Wilson. Okay, and then you don't need DeAndre Swift. You could go up to, we got 6,700 to work with for the running back position. Well, for now, I'm just going to plug in Chase Brown and see what happens. So that's one option right off the bat. Obviously, I'm going to tweak it some more. I don't want to have that much savings for cash. The last thing I'm going to give you is just a couple of GPP stacks I'm interested in. So I'm definitely interested in Daniel Jones stack this week. I think it's just too juicy of a matchup. I give him, they're not going to be able to, I think this is a game where I'm going to fade Jonathan Taylor. I might bring him back in, like if I'm stacking Daniel Jones, that is, I'm fading Jonathan Taylor. I do think we'll build one with Patrick Mahomes too, just to show you the difference. But Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, and then Alec Pierce. Something you could do. Alec Pierce. There we go. If you wanted to, you could definitely also include Tyler Warren instead of Alex Pierce. I'd say basically one of these two is someone that I'd be interested in. But I think that's interesting, and then bring it back with Rashee Rice. So that would be a build. If we were to flip that script, go Patrick Mahomes. This would be a lot of salary, but I think Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, it's going to be expensive. But if you thought that they were going to really play well and they were being pushed, I think in that case you can throw in Jonathan Taylor. But oh my goodness, that is so much salary. So I think you're almost going to have to skinny stack Patrick Mahomes in order to make that work. But that's a thought. The other thoughts that I had, I think this is a huge Jared Goff onslaught stack opportunity, and I have no problem going. Actually, you know what? In this build, I would say David Montgomery, because I would say that they're going to get him involved. David Montgomery, and then Amon-Ra, and Jamison Williams. You do not need to bring it back with a Giants player, but if you wanted to, you could throw in like Isaiah Hodgins or Wan'Dale or somebody. But like I said, I don't really think you need to get there. And then the last, well, two more stacks. I do think it's too juicy of a matchup not to. You got to do the triple stack again with Jacoby Brissett. Throw it in there with Michael Wilson. Stupid dogs. I don't know if it's catching the microphone or not, but I can hear him. The mailman must have just come. Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, and Trey McBride. I think I'm going to do it again this week, and then you can bring it back with Baishal Tootin. I think that could be an interesting one. And then the very last one is Drake May. Stack him with we want to bring it back with Treat Higgins, and then stack him with maybe Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry. Thought, I don't know. So I'm gonna still mess around with that one, but I think that's a sneaky game. Definitely if Joe Burrow's back, that I'm interested in. But like I said, be on the lookout. Next week, I'm going to have a special slate for Thanksgiving. I'm going to have each individual matchup, a showdown one, as well as the 3-game slate for Thanksgiving. So that week's going to be very special. I'm excited about it. It's probably my favorite slate of the season. And I will be probably putting that video out on Wednesday. But stay tuned. Good luck this week, and talk to you later.